myself, I never really been home. My parents only spoke Inuvialuit, no English long ago. But then my dad's relative in the summertime, I think I was only this big. And at that time, our parents and other people only spoke Inuvialuit, their language. When my parents used to move in the springtime to hunt caribou to another place to fish, and then one more place to stay. Before August, they would go to a place called Goop, big river, where the fish go up in and out. And when I was little, probably able to speak some, I remember, some I don't. My dad's close cousins, their family used to be around us in the summertime at Goop River. It's a big river where they used to hunt, do fish. And they used to make a fixed fish weird, and they would have sealskin shoes, with no hair. It's all waterproof, and they tied up here so that the water don't get in. It was like a proof. They pile this up like this, not only once but three, so the water don't go inside the shoe. And it was after they did all that, they used to settle down outside in the summertime and cut up fish and pull fish, make dry meat and all that stuff. And one summer, they did all this work to prepare those food for the winter. When I was little, I remember. And one evening, my mom cooked. My mom always cooked. Her name was Margaret Angnasiak. Her Inuvialuit mate, Joe Teddy's sister. We were all eating on the floor, cooked meat and all that stuff in a big tent we used to have. We're all sitting there, and when we finished eating, my dad's cousin, Victor Igudak, who was pretty close to our family, and after they had a great big meal, they would tell stories, in a big tent. So much fun to listen to their stories. At the time, I only spoke Inuvialuit, no English, no nothing. For me, Inuvialuit was a pretty clear understanding, because it's the only language we spoke at the time. And after we finished eating, I'd clean up the tables on the floor, trays and that. Victor Igudak used to always pull out those strings, ayawak, making designs. I was so small, he used to always have me sit on his lap. He was sitting on my lap. I was sitting on his lap. He was telling me stories and singing. Probably a couple hours later, he grabbed me and put me on his side. And at that time, they were just starting to get those radios, from long ago. Put wire and listen to radios. And Victor Igudak said, kind of quietly in his voice, he said, at the time we were starting to listen to radios, put an antenna and listen to radios on. He always had me sitting on his lap, somehow. And then he looks at me and he said, I think you should go to school. At the time I only spoke our language. He looks at me and said, I think you should go to school. I said, in my language I only spoke Inuvialuit. Then he said, I asked him, how come you want me to send me to school? He was quiet for a while. And he said, you know, in the future, he's thinking, looking at the future. And he says to me, you should go to school for a while. And I go, for what? At the time I only spoke our language. I was quiet for a while. Then he said, second time he said, you should go to school for a while. So I finally asked him why. He said, in the future, he said it's not long. Wondering why he's talking like this. And after a little while he started saying, you know, he said the planes are starting to come into our communities. Even helicopters are landing in our land area, far from town, and they must be looking for something, or they must be thinking to take over, or whatever. That's what he was saying. He said none of us understand English. They could understand a little bit, but not much. He said, go to school for a while so you could learn to speak English. And when a white man comes, if they talk to me so you could help us understand. I started to understand what he meant. So the next following year I went to school. I was here for 3 years attending school. Thinking of, you know, our elders. They can't understand English, and they only spoke the language. So the next following year, they must have put me on the list when my dad used to go to Redal and buy dog teams to get food supplies. It's quite a waste, that's why. And he said, he's got a radio. I said, for what? He said, so you could learn to speak English. Yeah. And so I finally said, okay, I'll give it a shot. I came up here to Inuvik at the Stringer Hall. We didn't know people up here, and we'd be going to school and coming in by the wrong doors. And you know, in our cabins we only have one door, say. Here when I first came, it's like there were so many doors on the houses. That's my first expression. So I went to school for 3 years, and I was able to speak the both languages clearly. I came back after, in my late times, I had 2 kids then. And then some white people, you know, start coming to Ulupak to home and talking to people, but people can't understand them. So I started translating. And then a few years later, I started working at the health center. I started working at the health center as a housekeeping. Then I worked my way up, and the nurses used to leave me by myself when they go out on a conference. And it was hard because I had to deliver babies as well. But I really enjoyed it, you know. It was something that I must enjoy. I really enjoyed it there for like 15, 14 years. And it was really nice to, you know, to visit the elders and ask them how they're doing, and if they need this, if they need this to be able to get around the house, and what kind of things they need, all that stuff. It was so nice, like, you know, they weren't scared of me, they could say anything. You know, not be afraid to say anything. I used to tell them, just talk, and I'm not gonna get mad or anything, just so you could get it out of your chest from long ago. They said long ago we were really good, we never do that kind of stuff. Just making me laugh when I think of that one. And I was there for like 42 years at the health center.
Wow.
I really enjoyed it. I like people, be around people. I sure enjoyed it, even the elders. We were delivering little babies too in the little trailers. It was fun to make somebody feel better. That's it, that's all.
How many years you were at the health center?
For almost 14.
14?
Yeah.
Oh.
Something like that. It was fun. I enjoyed it. Elders, every time I walk into the door, I open the door and the elders would say, "Hi, my nurse!" Really made me, feel that they're okay.
Yeah. He did that to me too after I retired. Even to this day when I see them, those elders, that's my nurse.
Me too, they still call me that.
Yeah, they
the
still call
elders,
me that too in Sac.